All right, and I I think we're live. It's not okay. Yeah, there we go. We are live. It doesn't show me for a couple seconds, so I'm not sure ever. And I'm like, I click the button. I hope it works. All right, so welcome back to the least professional show on YouTube. We're of course signifying our lack of professionalism by being a bit late today. We are quite a bit late. We're a lot later than we normally are, but we apologize for that. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we are here and we are ready to go. Darling, would you like to read us the first story?
First of all,
Do we have something else? Do we have to say?
I do have to say something.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
I did miss the chat from Paige or Daniel.
Last you found it.
I took a picture after we finished our live.
Nice.
And I saw the comment. So, Paige or Daniel, my missed super chat from Friday. I'm planning my escape from New York, 7K in property taxes to drive on roads that look like IEDs, one of every 100 yards.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what is he saying? He's moving out of New York?
Yeah.
It's funny. I used to live in New York, and when did I live there? I think like 2003. I think I lived in New York. And I liked it. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about it was that the people I worked with were crazy. I worked for a production company called RCN Entertainment. I probably shouldn't say that, but the women who were the executives at that company were insane. They were like psychopaths. Normally, I wouldn't talk crap about people that I had worked with in the past. You shouldn't do that as a rule generally. But these women were crazy. Like, they made their secretary cry every single day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I mean, literally, she was crying every single day. And so they put me in charge of the office. I was the office manager there. I started out as an intern, and after 3 days, I got an interview, which is great. And after 3 weeks, I was the office manager, which is fantastic. And after 3 months, they fired me. And the reason they fired me is because I was in charge of all the interns, right? And they used to scream at the interns if the interns would mess up some little thing. And some of the things were a little bit more significant, but they would just scream at them. And these interns were working for free. So
how is it possible?
Yeah. And I was basically like, at least some part of my job, some small part of my job was to tell these interns, look, I'm going to make life awesome for you because these executives are crazy. I know that, and in order to get this company working, I need to basically like treat you well. So I'm going to treat you well as a counterpoint. I was like the good cop to their bad cop. In a way, it ended up working like that, but I hated them. And they started yelling at this guy who messed something up. And I stood between them, physically stood between them, like, which I think was actually just. And I said, look, don't yell at them. I'm in charge of them. I actually work here and get paid. If you're going to yell at somebody, yell at me. And they kind of stopped. They like looked at me like, what the hell? Walked back into their office. And then later that day, they called me to their office and fired me. Because I was like, look, these guys, they're here for like 2 days a week. They don't get a good sense of how they're supposed to do things. They're like fresh out of college, if they even went to college. And you're like sitting there screaming at them for making some kind of like small mistake, which they couldn't possibly have, I don't know. It pissed me off. That was my first job. That was my first job after college. That wasn't really my first job total. Obviously, I had jobs as a kid. But that was my first job after college, working for a production studio. And they produced the children's show Reading Rainbow, which, believe it or not, will be vaguely relevant toward the end of this show as we get into the news here. Not Reading Rainbow per se, but children's shows generally. Yeah, let's do the intro. Nope, that's the wrong one. Again, least professional show on YouTube. Let's see here. Toxic masculinity. All right, so I'm toxic, she's masculine. Together we are toxic masculinity. And Valeria, darling, shall we read the first story?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Biden working to mandate vaccine passports.
Biden is working to make... Yeah, this is a little bit terrifying if you're one of those people who doesn't want to get a passport, right? And there's a lot of people who don't want to get... Oh, no. Look what I've done again. Let's see here. I'll get it, guys. Just give me a second.
Mark says that Valeria is whiter than ever.
I'm slowly making her whiter. There's a joke in there somewhere. I mean, the way I said it was kind of comedic, but I couldn't think of anything clever. Usually when you do something like that, you're sort of creating the setup for like some kind of joke. But I couldn't think of anything in time. All right, let's see here. Vaccine passports are on the way, but developing them won't be easy, says the Washington Post.
Maybe because it's unconstitutional?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You can't do this. You can't force people to reveal their medical information in order to allow them to do. No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. We have a whole thing, a series of laws. What the heck do they call those laws? You guys can write it in the. I used to work for a plastic surgeon, and I couldn't actually do. I was just photoshopping basically backgrounds of naked women. That was my whole job. It was not fun, believe me. Those women needed plastic surgery, and he wanted all the backgrounds of everybody to be the same, but he didn't always take the photos in the same place. Mm-hmm. So I had to cut out every woman and put them on a blue background. That was my job. And you couldn't like alter the scars or anything like that. You couldn't make it look like he was a better surgeon than he was, but you could change the background. But because of the laws that about revealing medical information, I could only work in the medical office. I couldn't actually do my work at home, which would have been a heck of a lot easier. Mm-hmm. If he had just sent me the images at home, I would have fixed them at home and sent it back to him. But because of the laws regarding medical information, I had actually go and use his computer and do it in his office, which was like a real pain. But it was fine. It was a reasonably well-paying job, and I liked the guy. And a black guy, by the way, black surgeon, plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. So really oppressed. Really oppressed. He grew up going to Beverly Hills High School with Lenny Kravitz. And then he ended up going to Harvard. His father was a gynecologist in Beverly Hills. Grew up like all my experiences in life are just like, every time I hear CNN tell me that we live in like this terribly racist country, it's just such a contradiction to my own actually like lived experience, as they call it on the left, right? Lived experience. But my own life completely contradicts that. Like everybody I've ever known that's black has not been oppressed. I mean, this whole thing is just... Anyway, whatever. Anyway, vaccine passports on the way. So this is terrifying. Developing them won't be easy, nor legal, actually.
No, they should say developing will be unconstitutional.
They should, but it's Washington Post, so they're not going to write that. But let's have a look here. The Biden administration and private companies are working to develop a standard way of handling credentials, often referred to as vaccine passports, that would allow Americans to prove they've been vaccinated against the novel coronavirus as businesses try to open. Now, they do mandate vaccines for like school children and stuff like that. So in those cases, you would have to prove that you've been vaccinated. So I suppose it could be legal. Yeah, and certainly you would want something like this, I think, if you did actually have something that was like insanely dangerous, like something that would kill you like as soon as you breathed it in, type of a thing. You'd want to know that people are vaccinated against it as a bulwark against spreading it through the population. And so I could actually see this having some kind of like legal merit. Like you could do it, you could implement it. But I think that the point is really that this is such a much more mild virus than what we were sold, especially now that we have the vaccine. So many people are being vaccinated, and so many people have already had the virus. And this I think is actually the major problem with this particular issue right now. It's like people want to demand that you've had the vaccine, but a lot of people have already had the virus. They are already immune to catching it again. Now, you've pointed out, and we've talked about it, I think, on the show, that you can still catch coronavirus from a different strain if you've already had coronavirus. But it's incredibly rare. It's like 1 in a gazillion. It basically doesn't happen. Statistically, it doesn't happen, right? It's just like, it doesn't happen. So we don't have to take that into consideration. We can say if you've had the coronavirus, you cannot catch it again, right? That's a rule of thumb that you can go by that is valid enough that it is true, right? It's valid enough that it might as well be true. So you have to act as if that's the truth. And but they're not. They're basically acting like if you get coronavirus, well, it doesn't matter. You can totally catch it again tomorrow. But that's just not true. It's incredibly unlikely you're going to catch it again. All right, well, let's read this thing. All right. The effort has gained momentum amid President Biden's pledge that the nation will start to regain normalcy this summer with a growing number of companies, from cruise lines to sports teams, saying they will require proof of vaccination before opening their doors again. The administration's initiative has been largely driven by arms of the Department of Health and Human Services, including an office devoted to health information technology, said 5 officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the effort. The White House this month took on a bigger role, coordinating government agencies involved in the work, led by coronavirus coordinator Jeff Zients, with the goal of announcing updates in coming days, said one official. One thing that's always a problem with having a left-wing administration, Democrats in office, is that they always want more power, more control. They want to interfere with your lives more and more and more and more and more. The great thing about having somebody like Trump in office, even if you are a Democrat and you don't like his policies, you don't like, you're for social justice and you love gays and black people and all that kind of crap. You want to vote. Anyway, whatever. Even if you're one of those people, you're still better off with a Republican in many cases, even if the policies that you want aren't being implemented, because Republicans are all about staying out of your life and having less government control and having more freedom and having more, private control of everything. So you don't, you're not interfered with quite as much. You're not bothered. Like, obviously I have a problem with a private company interfering in my life, with the YouTube constricting my views. So in that particular case, I think that would be an instance in which Republicans would act against the company's private interests to protect my private interest. Because when you have companies that have that much power, their voice is not more important than the million voices that they're silencing. I'm sorry. If you can silence one company in order to free up the voices of a million people, yeah, you got to do that, right? That is in the spirit of the First Amendment. Okay, moving on. Our role is to help ensure that any solution in this area should be simple, free, open source, accessible to people both digitally and on paper, and designed from the start to protect people's privacy. So the problem is they're acting like, we're going to make this really easy for you so that you can get these, this proof of vaccination and we're going to help you out to make this. No. What you're doing is you're making it easier to F over people who don't want to get the vaccine. Right? The faster you roll out some kind of vaccine passport, the quicker you will be able to oppress those who don't want to get the vaccine. That's the problem. And honestly, I wouldn't mind this that much. It would be a problem for me. Obviously, this vaccine passport thing, government mandated, that is government mandated version of it. If it were like a normal vaccine, it would still be a problem for me, but it wouldn't be as big of a deal, I don't think, if it was a traditional vaccine. But vaccines have been around forever, right? And we know they work. We know they're not particularly harmful to people. Well, some people would disagree with that. Valeri's looking at me like I'm crazy. But this new vaccine in particular, this is an experimental version of a vaccine. This is an experimental version. There are side effects that may be long-term that we don't know about. So some people are hesitant to take it, reasonably hesitant. And if you're a reasonably hesitant person and you decide not to take the vaccine, you should not be penalized for that in the coming months, right? I mean, if you look at all the data, all the charts show that, COVID deaths, COVID cases, everything's just gone down. It's all going down even more and more and more and more. I mean, it's disappearing. It's going to be more or less, not really an issue pretty soon here. The passport is expected to be free and available through application for smartphones, blah, 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 blah. But then it comes down here, and then they start talking about the difficulties, which I like. I actually can't believe that the Washington Post did this, and maybe they did this as a way of saying, like, this is a shame that they can't. I don't know. I don't really know what their position is on this, but they've always got an angle that's anti-conservative, so I don't trust the Washington Post. Other countries are racing ahead with their own passport plans, with the European Union pledging to release digital certificates that would allow for summer travel, which we want to travel to Europe during this summer, so I don't know how we're going to...
I want to go to Italy.
Yeah, so...
There is this rumors, I'm not sure if it's like 100% true, that Italy wanted to, of course, bring the tourists back.
Yeah.
And if you will stay there for, would say, 5 days, government will pay for additional 5 days for you to stay there.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I kind of want to go there.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will probably be in Italy at some time in probably December. Not December, sorry. September.
September, October.
I know words. September.
No, you don't.
We'll probably be there either late August or early September, I think. Probably early September.
September, probably.
Yeah, probably September. Because I would like to go for a while to Europe. And I want to go. I want to start at the north and go slowly south. Mm-hmm. And so we'll probably end up in Italy.
We will meet in Italy.
We'll meet where?
In Italy.
You don't want to go anywhere but Italy?
I have to go to Russia.
I know you have to go to Russia, but anyway. Okay, we'll discuss our personal travel plans after the show. All right, so let's finish this up. Oh man, I hate it when this happens. Some of these news stories are a little bit too. They're a little bit too. I kind of cover them up with my fat head. All right.
I would say ear.
What's that?
I would say fat ear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, I'll shrink that up so people can see it a little bit. All right, so a lot of Valeria, a little bit of me. I think that's what everybody likes. That's preferable. Let's see. Okay, U.S. officials say they are grappling with an array of challenges, including data privacy and healthcare equity. Healthcare equity. Oh my gosh. I hate that word equity. It is such a lie. Everything about that word is a lie. And that whole concept. All right. They want to make sure all Americans will be able to get credentials that prove that they've been vaccinated, but also want to step up systems that are not easily hacked or passports that can't be counterfeited, given that forgeries are already starting to appear. Maybe we need to find those people who are doing that. One of the most significant hurdles facing federal officials, the sheer number of passport initiatives underway, with the Biden administration this month identifying at least 17, according to slides obtained by the Washington Post. Those initiatives, such as the World Health Organization-led global effort and a digital pass devised by IBM that's being tested in New York State, are rapidly moving forward. You know what I really hate about this, guys? This is the thing that drives me nuts, is that even though we're probably not going to end up using vaccine passports here in America for COVID, we'll probably end up with vaccine passports for other viruses. Like probably every virus going forward.
No, trust me. I think they are gonna to do this with COVID and every next.
I don't think so, because I think COVID's going to be so insignificant by the time they get this stuff figured out.
It's not, because this morning there was an article like CDC person was like, cases are rising again. It's going to be even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that's true, though. I think they're wrong. I don't think their cases are not rising. That's actually not true. Actually, let me just look at that real quick.
They gonna make them rising. They bringing all of these immigrants. They're not testing them for COVID.
Let's have a look here. So this is. Sorry, I've got my fat head's in the way. Let me just move that out of the way. There we go. So you guys can see the cases here. I mean, cases are rising. What here at the very bottom? Like there's like a little bump. Cases are not rising. Look. Cases have like almost collapsed to almost nothing.
They will rise.
I don't think they will.
They're
rise.
going to say it's a fifth wave. There is a 10th.
Oh, so you're saying that they're going to indicate that it's rising even though it's not.
Yeah, because every autumn we have a flu.
Man, I can't believe, like, so you guys, you don't understand. Like, Valeria didn't really know anything about politics when she came to America. And she met me. We started dating. I started my YouTube channel. We ended up getting married. And now Valeria is more cynical than I am. Like, she's like a hardcore right-wing, mainstream media, anti-left. Like, I mean, Valeria has gone way past me. Why are you looking at me like that? You're looking at me like you want to kill me.
No.
Disgust and anger is what I'm getting off for right here.
Well, I'm Russian, so we don't really like media there.
Yeah, I mean, you see, so I think, I do think that's really the reason. The reason is because you come from a place in which people were corrupt. And so coming to America, seeing some corruption is something that to you isn't surprising. And so when somebody does something bad in America or something that seems a little fishy, you immediately assume that they're corrupt. And I'm like, I'm a little bit more of an optimist. I grew up in a time when America, I think, was a little bit more honest. People were more honest. People were more trusting. And so I grew up in an era where you just didn't expect people to be as bad as they are now and as criminal as they are now. So I'm becoming far more cynical, but Valeria's beating me in the race to become a massive cynic about politics. Like, she's just killing me on that one. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying about that?
Didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's about it. I mean,
one hour ago, Washington, not the Washington something, 1 second, Boston Globe or New York Times. There's like 1 hour ago. The CDC director warns of impending doom, fears of another surge grow in mass and across the nation.
Democrats stoking hysteria. That's shocking. I've never.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes ago, 1 hour ago.
All right, let's finish this story up real quick here. So, the busboy, the janitor, the waiter that works at the restaurant wants to be surrounded by employees that are going to be going back to work safely, and wants to have the patrons ideally be safe as well, said Brian Anderson, a physician at Meacher, a nonprofit company that runs federally funded research centers, who is helping lead the initiative, creating an environment for those vulnerable populations to get back to work safely. They always do this. They always like create a fake victim, and they create a fake bad guy, and then they go, look, that bad guy is, this is what, creating sympathy, creating this like emotional effect. I mean, it's really patronizing, actually, the way they try to manipulate people with the way they speak. What if the busboy, the janitor, and the waiter, what if they don't want to get the vaccine? What if none of those guys want to get the vaccine? And what if they don't want to work in a restaurant that is filled with people who got the vaccine? I mean, honestly, most people don't care if somebody else gets the vaccine, but they themselves want to make the choice themselves. They don't want to be, they don't want to be manipulated by the government to do it. This is just government manipulation, and it pisses me off. Like, it makes me not want to get the vaccine just because they're demanding that we do so. And they want to know that people coming back to their businesses are safe and vaccinated. That would be a great scenario. Oh, go to hell. Anderson's team is aiming to release its free software standards in April, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. Proof of vaccination, Washington Post is saying, may be a critical driver for restoring baseline population health and promoting safe return to social, commercial, and leisure activities, according to the March 2nd slides prepared by the Office of National Coordination for Health Information Technology and obtained by the Washington Post. But officials at the session, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, attended by more than 150 staff from health, defense, homeland security, and other departments, and even far-flung agencies such as NASA, warned of the confusing array of efforts underway for the credentials. Blah, 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 blah. I want to see what the other problems are. I'm looking for the other problems. So then this other guy, the coordinator for health IT, said that he didn't like the term vaccine passports, adding that passports are something that are issued by governments. I think of them as vaccine credentials or certificates. Yeah, well, exactly. That's the whole point.
The problem that it's not going to be just passport for COVID. It's going to be passport for every single vaccine.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it will be. I want to see what the other issues they're having. All right. Many people see this as a key aspect to getting things closer to normal. Okay, here we go. There's evidence vaccine passports could motivate skeptical Americans to get shots. Several vaccine hesitant participants at a recent focus group of Trump voters, led by pollster Frank Lunt, suggested their desire to see family go on vacation and resume all aspects of daily life outpaced the fear for the shots, particularly if travel companies and others move to require proof of vaccination. Exactly. This is a way of manipulating the people to do what you want.
I remember what I said.
Okay, what were you saying?
Exactly like I said exactly this a year ago when the whole thing started.
Yeah. What I'm saying now?
Yeah. And you were like, no, it's going to be fine. In like 2 weeks, we're going to be open. Everything is fine.
I know. Actually, it was really funny. When the lockdowns started, you guys remember the lockdowns, of course. It was only until like a few weeks ago that we were released from our curfews here in LA, which is completely mental. But a year ago, when the virus was sort of like spreading, Valeria was like, they're going to lock us in our apartment. We're not going to be able to leave. And I was like, they would never do that. That's such an authoritarian thing to do that you would never do it. Like, you would never do it in America. And they flipping did it. And they shut down all the businesses. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe they did it. I still can't believe it. It's so un-American. It was so awful. And it did nothing. And I mean, for YouTube, what I mean is it did everything. It was perfect. It saved lives. There was a total difference between how people got the virus and survived here in California versus, somewhere like Sweden where they didn't have lockdowns. Completely, totally life-changing. I mean, look at everybody in Sweden's dead now. Did you know that? They're all dead. They all died. Everyone.
Horrifying.
Yeah. Not fake news, I promise. Look. It's ridiculous that we can't talk about this. It's so stupid. Because you know what happened in Sweden? Nothing. They're fine. Everybody's fine in Sweden. They're happy. They're doing a hell of a lot better than we are. They're pretty much over the virus at this point. But we had to kill our economy, kill people's jobs, kill people's businesses. It's ridiculous. All right. Let's see.
Did we just spend 35 minutes on one article and we have 7?
Yeah, but I'm pissed off about this. Public health and ethics experts agreed that the Biden administration need to strike a careful balance, encouraging shots and support the private sector initiatives, but don't put too much federal emphasis on the looming passports. If it becomes a government mandate, it would go down a dark road very quickly, said Brian C. Castrucci, who leads the Bethesda, Maryland-based Beaumont Foundation. So this is the stuff I was talking about that I was actually impressed that the Washington Post put this in here. A public health group funding Luntz's research into why some Americans are balking at the vaccine. It becomes a credential. It becomes a needing your papers, if you will. That could be dangerous, and it could turn people off. That's right, because we don't want to live in flippin' Germany in the 1940s. If you need to see your papers...
Yeah.
Papers? Oh, take this person to the concentration camp. I can do that accent because I'm German. And because everyone should be able to do any accent they want at any time. Anyway, all right, so it has to be that everybody can get it, and it's their choice, as it were. Said Ezekiel Emanuel of the Pennsylvania bioethics expert. He's a University of Pennsylvania, bioethics expert who co-authored a Journal of American... I can't read today, sorry guys. Blah, 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 blah. One thing I'm concerned about is that people won't be able to get vaccinated for a variety of reasons. Okay, and then they go into that crap again. But I do like that what this guy has to say, this Brian C. Castrucci. He's like, it can't become a mandate. It's got to be people's choice. Well, here's the thing. We shouldn't have a damn passport because a passport means you can't do things unless you have the passport. That's what a passport is. You can't go into a country unless you have a passport to get in that country. that says I can travel.
Yeah,
Right?
you can go on a plane with your ID.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a passport, but you have to have a vaccine passport.
Now you have to have a vaccine, or they're going to start doing that. Hopefully, this doesn't actually happen, guys.
Well, it's already happened in Israel.
Yeah, and I think it's going to happen in Europe, which is so disappointing. But anyway, we'll have to figure out how to deal with all that. All right, darling. Sorry that took so long, guys, but that pisses me off, and I thought it was an important story. Shall we move on to the next story, my love?
You're who?
My love.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You act like I've never called you that before.
Every day you call me like this. Every day, every single day. But
not in front of people. Yeah,
publicly.
Yeah.
No,
So-
I'm.
Sorry, it was a slip. I apologize. All
Thank
right,
you.
let's move on to the next.
Biden staffer physically blocks Ted Cruz from reporting on migrants.
Biden what?
Staffer. Biden staffer.
Stuffer.
That's what you wrote.
I believe it's staffer.
Staffer. What's the
There you go.
difference?
Well, I don't know what a stuffer is, but it sounds sexual. All right, so very inappropriate, darling. Very inappropriate. All right, so let me go ahead and read this. I'm sure you guys have all seen this video. It's gone viral. It's pretty crazy, but let's go ahead and play it for you if you haven't seen it already.
Your advisor, you were hired 2 weeks ago, and you're instructed to ask us.
Please respect. Please give dignity to the people. Please give dignity to the people.
So you work for the commissioner, your senior advisor. You were hired 2 weeks ago, and you're instructed to ask us to not have any pictures taken here.
Please respect the people,
because the political
rules.
leadership at DHS does not want the American people to know it.
Please respect the
You
rules,
keep
sir.
standing in front of the pictures, so
Please
you don't want the
respect the
pictures
rules.
taken. The rules are arbitrary, and
Please
they're
respect
designed
the
to
rules
keep
and
the
give
American
the
people
people
in the dark.
dignity and respect. That's all we ask.
Well,
Dignity
no, it's
and
not.
respect.
You're asking, is this
Please-
dignity and respect? Look at
Please
these people.
give
There's
dignity
a
and
pandemic.
respect to the people.
Let me
I
ask you, there's a
I
pandemic.
respectfully ask you, sir.
There is a pandemic.
With full-hearted,
Is this respecting the rights of these
full-heartedly,
kids?
I ask you. Please
Are you
respect
respecting the
people.
rights of these
This
kids?
is not a zoo, sir. Please don't treat the people.
You're right, and this is a
As such.
dangerous place.
Please don't treat the
And
people
your
like
policies,
this. That's all I ask for
unfortunately,
you,
are
sir.
trying to hide them. I understand
That's
you
all
were
I ask
instructed
you.
when 18
I ask
senators
you
came
to
down
please
here.
respect the people, give them dignity
I
and
respect
respect.
them, and I want to fix this situation.
We all wanna
and
fix
the
it, sir. We
administration
don't
you're
want
working
this to
for is
happen anymore.
responsible for these conditions.
Please respect the people with dignity and respect,
And
sir.
I ask you to respect the people as well. This
I am
is not
respecting you.
respect.
I am respecting the
This
people.
is not respect.
You know what what else she needed to say?
Yeah.
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this could not be a more ironic,
Please respect the people. Please, can I stay less than 1 feet away from you?
Well, the way
Walking.
it's bizarre because obviously they're not treating these people with the utmost dignity. I mean, granted, so during the Trump administration, you had kind of similar kind of stuff going on, but you were dealing with far fewer people because the people weren't just coming up here in like these massive waves.
Yeah.
And so they could treat people with a lot more dignity and a lot more respect than than they're currently dealing with them with, because there's just so many of them, and that's Biden's fault. So Biden is the one not treating them with dignity or respect, obviously. And then she's standing in front of, like, physically trying to obstruct Ted Cruz from videoing what's going on, reporting to the American people what's going on. And she's saying that he's not treating them with dignity. You're not treating Ted Cruz with dignity or respect. You're standing there, you're totally disrespectful. The man is a very prominent representative of the American people. You are what? You're just some chick that was hired to, have this sort of partisan interference. But instead of asking him politely, you're standing in front of the camera. Totally disrespectful. 1. 2, these people who are being brought up here are being treated with disrespect. Because, okay, you know how disrespectful it is to create a scenario in which little girls are given the morning after pill and told when they go on this journey they will be raped? It's like 80% of the girls who try to immigrate into the United States illegally, 80% of them are raped. 80% of them. This is not a respectful way of treating people. I can't. Come on, like, who's being disrespectful here? And what really pisses me off, and it really does piss me off, is that you got this group of Democrats sitting around thinking, and they're sitting there trying to figure out what language they need to use to make it sound like the Republicans are the bad guys, right? So sitting there, they're going, okay, well, obviously this looks bad. Obviously, we have all these people, in these cells,
You mean burritos?
Huh?
You mean burritos?
Yeah, they look like Chipotle burritos, or baked potatoes covered in tin foil. And they're all kind of stuffed in these plastic cells.
There is no space between them.
Yeah, there's no space between them. It looks terrible. It looks dirty. It looks unpleasant. Oh, which, by the way, I bought the Mylar blankets that they're sleeping under because I want to sleep in this for one night, and on the ground here, and we'll see how they are. I'll go ahead and film it, and I'll tell you guys what I think. That'll probably go on to Mr. Reagan's channel. But anyway. So you got all these people. They're treated very inhumanely because there's just so many of them coming over. And so, obviously there's going to be reporters eventually going to get hold of the footage, right? We saw what happened with Project Veritas. We saw what happened when I think it was a Democrat senator or something leaked some photos took some photos and leaked it to the press. And so, they had this sort of crisis thing, that happened at the White House where they said, okay, what are we going to say? Because they have these people who all they do is they figure out how to manipulate language to make the Democrats sound good and the Republicans sound bad. And I think there's probably people in the Republican Party that do this as well, but definitely not as many. And if we do, they're not that good at it. And I think the problem is, and I've mentioned this before, is that Republicans care about the truth and Democrats care about the message. And you hear this all the time. In fact, you hear Democrats talking about that, where they'll say, the facts are important, but what's really important is the message, because people need a story, because that's what people care about. And they know that, and they use that to manipulate people. It's terrible. So they get these little groups together, and they come up with just the right language. And they say, what we have to say is that taking photos of these people in this bad condition that they're in, that we put them in, taking photos of them or taking video of them in that bad scenario that we put them in, that's disrespectful, right? It's like, I punched this guy in the face, he's bleeding, he's crying, he's like lying on the ground asking for his mom. It's a pathetic sight. Maybe he pees himself, because I hit him so hard, and some guy's videotaping it because it's obviously an outrageous thing that just fucking happened. That just happened, sorry, because I punched the guy in the face. And the guy, and then people are like, and then I go get in front of him and I say, no, don't film him. That's very disrespectful. He's suffering. Can't you see he's suffering? Why would you disrespect him by taking a video of that right now? That's terrible. After I punched him in the face, he peed himself, and you're videotaping that. You're a horrible person for reporting on this. Ted Cruz is just reporting on the disrespect that the Biden administration has shown for these people, and Ted Cruz is being called disrespectful? Oh, F off, woman. She just pisses me off. That's why I'm swearing. I'm pissed off at this woman. But so you get all these people, and they're sitting around, they're like, okay, what we'll say is they're the disrespectful ones for getting footage of it. They're the disrespect. That's the message that we're going to send. And then also, we can say that filming these people in these plastic cells that we've put them in, all cramped together with their Mylar sheets or whatever, thermal blankets, whatever they are, we'll say that they're not animals in a zoo. They're not animals in a zoo. That's great. Oh, that's great. I love that. Oh, who thought of that? Oh, you're a genius. You get a raise. High fives all around. That's what they're doing. That's what they're out there in DC doing. They're having these little meetings where they come up with the best language to make Republicans look bad. And then they get this girl in and they say, okay, you stop anybody trying to film. You stop anybody trying to film, and you use this language. You say they're being disrespectful, and you say these people are not animals in a cage. This is not a zoo. You use language like that, and then that'll make the people shooting the video look bad, and it'll make people sympathetic to the Democrats and to the Biden administration. So that's what they're doing, and that's why I wanted to cover this story, is just to kind of give an insight into how I think these degenerates in D.C. manipulate the message. They manipulate language to manipulate the people of America. Darling.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add?
What can I add?
I don't know. Ashley wrote something. I'm trying to look here. It's like getting mad at reporters for filming Antifa while they're burning down cities. Yeah, this is what Antifa used to do, right? Antifa would used to commit crimes, and then our buddy Elijah would go out there and he would film them, you know. And in fact, I think there was a Democrat politician in like Minnesota or something like that who ended up getting the crap beaten out of him by Antifa because he was filming Antifa, and they just like rushed him and like beat the crap out of him. I can't remember who it was. It was a long time ago, but yeah, that was a pretty crazy story. And that's what would happen. Antifa would like beat up anybody who was trying to film them because they didn't want anybody catching their crimes and then sending them to jail. This is before that we had the mask mandate and COVID and everything, and like some people in Antifa didn't wear masks. But yeah, so that's a good analogy. And so basically the left has taken the tactics of Antifa. The Biden administration are now using the tactics of Antifa to try to discourage people from reporting on the migrant crisis. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, next time is she gonna punch him in the face or what?
You mean the chick that was trying to stop Ted Cruz from videotaping?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm sure she probably will want to if she doesn't actually try. All right, do you want to read the next story?
Yeah. Psaki says you can travel, but only if you are rich. What?
Yeah, did you not hear this? So this
No.
this is a video that I'm going to be playing here from the Blaze, but it's really just a raw clip of the press conference. But it was this is pretty crazy. Yeah, she's asked why Biden keeps telling everybody don't travel, but then he's traveling all over the country. So doesn't that send a mixed message? And she's like, well, he can travel because he's rich. Watch, you'll see. You'll see. It's pretty funny. Let me switch the audio here.
Accountable.
Very last one. Also, as a follow-up to the CDC and White House briefing this morning on COVID, they made very clear that they are urging Americans to continue to take action to prevent a fourth surge, including non-essential travel. Is the warning against non-essential travel something that the White House is taking into consideration with regard to upcoming travel by the President and Vice President, both for business and for personal reasons?
Well, I would say the president travels, as does the vice president, on a private plane. That is the purview of every president and vice president throughout American history. That is, of course, different than traveling on a commercial flight and going to mass events. As you know, the president is not hosting rallies, nor is the vice president. We take the role of being models quite seriously, but I think most Americans would recognize the difference. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Just on. Right. So if you fly private, you can travel. But if you have to fly commercial, I'm sorry, we don't want you traveling. But if you're rich and you have your own private jet, well, that's okay then. That's okay then.
He's not rich. I mean, he's rich, yes, but he's the president, so he can travel whatever.
Right. Obviously, that's a special circumstance. But she's basically saying because he flies private, it's actually fine, and he doesn't have to actually listen to these rules. It's like one rule for people who can fly private, who can afford to fly private, and one rule for everybody else. That's what she's... It was the worst possible response she could have possibly given. It's just basically like it's an elitist response, right? It's a response that's like, no, we stand by our policy that you're not allowed to travel unless you're rich.
But she didn't say that.
No, but that's the implication. That's the implication. That's what it means to be able to fly. I mean, who can fly private? Rich people. Okay, models. Sorry. Supermodels who rich people want to be flying on their planes with them, so they have something nice to look at while they're flying. Those are the two groups that get to fly private. Sorry, I forgot, darling.
So rich people and prostitutes?
Exactly.
And politicians?
Exactly. Rich people, prostitutes, and politicians. Thank you for bringing that into the...
Which is sometimes rich people, prostitutes, and politicians are the same one person. That's true.
Kamala Harris, is that what you're talking about?
She's model. She was in Vogue.
Well, she's not a model really, but she's definitely a prostitute.
Prostitute, 100% politician.
Yeah, and she's rich. And she's rich.
And she's rich.
Anyway, I had another point about this Psaki thing. I can't remember what it was. There was a lot of I'll read some comments. These are pretty funny. Yeah, so a lot of people wrote, because she ends up saying in this response, she says we're not holding any rallies, as you know, right? It was like a dig at President Trump. Did you hear her say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember hearing that, and yeah, other people commented on the same thing, and I was like, he's not holding rallies. What the hell are you talking about? Like,
He can't even hold them.
it's not that he's not holding rallies to stop COVID from spreading. He's not holding rallies because nobody likes him. This report came out the other day that he has like a 60% approval rating. It was like a CNN poll or something like that. I can't remember. 60%, 60.
They mean 6?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who believes that? Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. I mean, who did that poll? I don't who did that poll, actually. I should look that up. Like, come on. 60%? Oh, crap. I hit the button. How long have we had no audio? Oh my God. I've been like pissed off talking for like 5 minutes now. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. I hit the stupid button. I promise you. I don't know why I didn't click. Sometimes you click something on the mouse, doesn't work. All right, so that's embarrassing. All right, so what were we saying? Like, this is, I think ever since I got done with the Psaki thing, we didn't get any of our response to that at all.
So at what point there was no sound?
When we clicked from the audio of Psaki.
Oh no! That's terrible.
That's the worst mistake we've made, guys. Let's see how many people have dropped off. The
1 or
live
2
stream.
minutes.
That's
1 or 2 minutes.
All right, let's see here. Psaki. Okay, so look. First of all, this is a disaster because, well, it was the whole thing. So Psaki is saying that you basically have to be rich to fly. If you want to travel anywhere, you can only fly private. So if you can't afford to fly private, folks, I'm so sorry. Not going to happen for you.
So, and you said you can. Who travels privately? Who travels
Oh yeah,
privately?
we went over this whole thing. So the only people. Let's see here. Only a minute, no biggie. Sound is out. You know what might have happened? I might have hit a button. There's certain. I have these. I got to take out those hotkeys because if I accidentally hit one of the hotkeys, did we already talk about all this? Should we just move on to the next story?
Yeah.
Let's call this one a disaster and move on to the next story. What I was trying to say is this new poll came out. Biden has 60% approval, 70% approval for COVID, and it's like nobody believes that. Who believes that? It's such a lie. This was apparently conducted by the Associated Press and the NORC, Center for Public Affairs Research. Whoever that group is, it's Democrat propaganda, whoever they are, because this is absolute baloney. This is worse than the polls that they did before the election, where they were like, Biden's going to win by 1 million points. Oh yeah, this is not.
What am I going to do with this?
This is not ideal for you, huh? You just got to look at it. Sorry. You want sunglasses?
I can look at the sun. I mean, as long as the image doesn't look good, though.
Oh no, it looks fine.
No, I don't. No, it doesn't.
Well, darling, just stay in the center. Please, just stay in the center.
No, I don't like it. It's yellow.
Yeah.
I'm white. I don't want to be yellow.
Sorry, Kurt. She doesn't want to be yellow. All right. Well, let's just move on to the next story. That one. Okay. Well, we screwed that one up pretty bad, but you guys get the idea. It's the Biden White House. There's 2 points to take home from this, right? One is that you can only travel if you're rich, and the second to take home, because she said that they're not holding Trump rallies because of COVID,
Biden
which is a
rallies.
total lie. So she made 2 mistakes basically talking about this. She said she just like made a fool of herself twice, and now everybody's ridiculing her and mocking her. And all the comments are basically like, most Americans recognize this administration is a worldwide laughingstock. Presidents have flown throughout American history. So I wonder if George Washington fell on the stairs also, right, throughout American history. Obviously, since airplanes became standard flying means of transportation. If they have rallies, no one would show up. So this guy. The difference is they're flying like the rich, so the rules don't apply. Money equals freedom to many. And, that's kind of true generally in life, but, like, it's not something that you want to hear from your political leaders, that, like, everybody basically has to follow certain rules except rich people. You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. All right, darling, I will allow you. Whoa, hello. We have no, the top of your head is gone.
I can't.
You look like you're glowing. Look at that. You're glowing. Just bask in the glow of the sunset.
Fine.
All right. Can you read us the next story?
Yeah. Mexican loves Speedy Gonzales.
All right. This is actually, I think, probably my favorite story of the day, folks. So if I lost you on the last one, I apologize. Hopefully I'll get you back on this one. I love this story, and I'll tell you why. Well, for a variety of reasons. But I have a good friend who's Mexican, and he actually called me the other day complaining about this. And he's like, every Mexican I know is like pissed off because they're trying to cancel Speedy Gonzales. And he's like, we love Speedy Gonzales. Like he's like, do not take our Speedy Gonzales away from us. And I'm not really going to read this story because it's essentially just that, like, essentially white people are trying to tell people of color, Hispanics, black people, Muslims, Indians, Asian people, whomever, leftist, white, mostly I think women, white, middle class or wealthy women for the most part, are basically telling Hispanics what they should be pissed off about or what they should be happy about. Like, this is racist and you should hate it. And here's where I think things become a little bit of a problem, is that this has actually worked for decades with black people, right? So and the reason is because you have certain black leaders who I would refer to as race baiters, right? They're people who make their fortune stoking hatred, stoking hysteria, stoking fear about racism in America, basically trying to convince the black people throughout the country, black Americans, that white Americans hate them. And so any little thing they can find, they'll use for that purpose. And so you get these like white academics and these like white middle class women who, some of them probably fairly young, just out of college or maybe even in college. And they're like looking for things. They're trying to figure out in what way can we take this actually perfectly innocuous thing and distort it into something that we can present as offensive. That we can say, you should be offended by this, and everybody should be outraged and hate white people for it, right? And what they'll do is they'll present something like that, like the term black, for some reason in like the 90s or maybe the late 80s, was deemed to be racist. You couldn't say black. You had to say African American. That became the thing. Like, we have to say African American. And Jesse Jackson took this and he was like, yes, we're going to take African American. That's going to be the new thing. If you ever say black, you're a racist and it's terrible. And people went with it. And if you said black, some people were offended. And it was ridiculous, right? And we've seen this over and over and over again. And so we finally got to a point where now they're doing it with the Hispanic community, right? They did it with this term Latino. Latino is now gendered. So now you have to say Latinx. You have to say Latinx. And Hispanics, Mexicans, people from South America, anybody who is a Latino, who would consider themselves a Latino, they're saying, no, we don't like Latinx. That sounds stupid. We're Latinos. F off. And I love that. They're actually standing up to them because the left isn't used to people pushing back. They're used to saying, this is what you should be offended by. And people going, okay, thank you. We will be offended by that. And then acting on that thing. The Mexicans are being told, this is what you're going to be offended by. And the Mexicans are going, okay, thank you very much. Screw that. Get the hell away from me. You're an idiot. And I love that. They're pushing back. They're punching back. They're saying, no, we don't like Latinx. Screw you. No, you know what? We actually like Speedy Gonzales. Believe it or not, we like the little mouse. Okay? And I have a great story about this, actually. I have a great personal story about this, what's funny?
You said you're not going to be too much on it because we still have 3 articles.
No, I don't care. This is a good story.
That's what I'm doing every day.
What are you talking about? My stories are good, dang it. I'll just get a video of you laughing at me for a while.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, so I got a great story about this. So I used to be on movie sets a lot, and I would interact with various people, and I was in one project. I think it was a movie, and I was a patron in a strip club, right? And which was really funny because I've actually never been to a strip club in real life. A lot of guys out there are going, "You're not a real man," but I don't. I find the whole concept of the strip club disturbing. Like if I'm going to get a girl, I don't need to pay for it. That's always been my position. So I've never been to a strip club, but I had to go for this movie. I was one of the strip club patrons. That was my job in the movie, and there were strippers, doing the pole dancing stuff, and then there were like waitresses that would serve people, drinks and stuff like that. And what are you looking at?
Comments?
Stop looking at comments. Look here. I'm telling you a story, woman. Very disrespectful. Look at this. She's my wife. She should be more respectful. Anyway, look. So I'm in this strip club, which is very uncomfortable for me. But then there's all these beautiful women walking around serving drinks and serving food or pretending to for the show. And I end up talking to. There end up being this this table full of girls because there's a lot of breaks, right? And so when this happens, naturally, a gentleman surrounded by beautiful women is going to be a little bit flirtatious. He's going to want to tell stories. He's going to want to, and so I start doing accents, as you do. If you could do accents and people think it's funny, sometimes it comes up as like a thing to do, right? And so I start doing like an Australian accent, a British accent, whatever. And this girl was a Mexican girl, and she was like Miss like a Hollywood 2016 or something like that. Like she had just won some beauty contest, and she was trying to tell me that she just won this beauty contest. She was really excited about it. She was showing everybody her Instagram and how proud she was of winning this thing. And I was a little bit nervous about this because she suddenly goes, "Can you do a Mexican accent?" And I can do a Mexican accent, but I can only do like the Speedy Gonzales accent. Like I can only do the accent from the mice from Speedy Gonzales, which is to me this like exaggerated cartoon, almost like stereotype version of an accent that is probably one of those things that people have been conditioned to believe is offensive, even though it isn't. So I was like, yeah, I can do one version of a Mexican accent, but I think it's kind of probably racist. And she's like, well, what do you mean? How is it racist? And I go, well, it's like the Speedy Gonzales accent. And she goes, oh, I love Speedy Gonzales. I want to hear the Speedy Gonzales accent. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do the Speedy Gonzales accent. And everybody at the table is like, come on, do the Speedy Gonzales accent. So I'm being pressured. And finally, I'm just like, oh, fine. So I'm like, hey, I am Speedy Gonzales. And everybody at the table just starts dying. They're like, I love that. That's the best. And I realized that accent isn't really offensive to anyone. Somehow that didn't get into the culture. It didn't get into the culture that talking like this is actually not racist at all. Everybody could talk like this and he is fine. Because it's just a fun voice. It's a fun voice to do. It's something we all got from our childhood. It's a positive thing. And here's the thing. Okay, I actually think this actually is kind of a racist cartoon, right? I think it does come from a racial stereotype because I think it comes from this idea that Mexicans are like slow and lazy. I think that's where it comes from. And so Speedy Gonzales is sort of ironically fast, right? He's sort of like the anomaly, the weird, this cat thinks, oh, all the Mexican mice are slow. I'll go after them. But then you got Speedy Gonzales, who's like unexpectedly fast, and that's where the humor comes from. I think that's the concept where that comes from, because you have like Slowpoke Rodriguez, who is like very slow. Everything he does is very slow, and then Speedy Gonzales is very fast, fastest mouse in Mexico. But the funny thing is, it's like it doesn't really matter that was the stereotype that they were drawing from. I don't think, because even so, they didn't do this cartoon as like Mexicans are horrible people, we hate them. They made these characters that they clearly loved. These Mexican mice were the good guys. The cats were the bad guys. And this Mexican hero, Speedy Gonzales, was like the most beloved character. I mean, he was just like, everybody loves Speedy Gonzales. White, black, Mexican, it doesn't matter. You like him. He's the hero. He's the good guy. He's great. It doesn't matter if it comes from this stupid stereotype. It doesn't matter, okay? The truth is, Speedy Gonzales is awesome. Every Mexican loves him, and I love him, and most Americans love him growing up with him. And he's this is one of the first things that I've seen that the left has tried to cancel, that because it's something that the group they were trying to cancel it for actually loved, they stood up against it and said, no, we're not going to accept that. Screw you. That doesn't get canceled. And now it isn't. They're all standing up against it. You see here in the New York Post, Mexican loves Speedy Gonzales, and other commentary. There's commentary about, in the article, but this is all about how like the guy from who does the voice. The guy who does the voice of Speedy Gonzales, I think he's a comedian who goes by like Fluffy. He goes by the name Fluffy. And he's saying, what, are you going to cancel me? He's like, I'm Mexican. He's like, I love Speedy Gonzales. And so I think that it might not be getting canceled. But I'm not going to read the article. I just wanted to give you guys my story of, and look, you meet a lot of Mexican people when you live in California. You just do. And occasionally Speedy Gonzales does come up, weirdly. And every Mexican person I've ever spoke to where we talked about Speedy Gonzales or we talked about this kind of like funny caricature accent, they all love Speedy Gonzales and they all love the accent. And I've never had a problem with it. And we should all be able to do funny accents of whatever, Chinese, Mexican, African, German, Scottish, English, New York, Tennessee, whatever accent that you can do in a kind of a funny, fun way. Just do it. Don't worry about the racial stereotype thing. This is just a way that people use to divide us. But in reality, if you're doing it out of love or you're doing it to make people laugh or to have fun, I think you should. I think you should just go for it. And we shouldn't always be afraid that people are going to be offended, because that was a mistake that I made when I was in that strip club. Anyway, you don't have anything to say about this because you didn't get Speedy Gonzales as a child, did you? Mm-mm. Did you have any? Did you have like a really fast Ukrainian mouse that was going up against Russian cats? That's a joke. I didn't think you would actually have that because they're on your southern border. Okay. All right. So you're done with that. We're done with this story?
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to read the next story?
Why did Biden give Joe Manchin's wife a job?
Yeah, this is a fantastic story because Joe Manchin is. Give me one second, guys.
I don't know who's.
Joe Manchin is a Democrat, but he's a Democrat who doesn't want to go along with all the Democrat stuff. And so the Democrats, I think, are trying to find ways to manipulate him to go along with their ideas, to go along with their program. And so the suspicion, because his wife, very suspiciously, you're getting very dark. Do you want me to change the lighting?
Yeah, you can try, or
You can do it.
me.
Yep. So let's see here. So the problem is that Joe Manchin, he's not going along with the Biden stuff, and then his wife just like very unexpectedly gets this job with the Biden administration. Do you know how to do it? You know how to?
Good.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not looking. Yeah, you look great. Okay. So Joe Manchin doesn't go along with Biden stuff, and so then his wife just gets this sort of job sort of magically that she doesn't seem to be qualified for, doesn't seem to be the best candidate for. And it's not like the Biden administration loves Joe Manchin. So what this looks like is it looks like a bribe. It looks like they're bribing Joe Manchin to basically go along with the Biden agenda. That's what it looks like. So there's let's go ahead and play this. There's I think the press actually is kind of doing their job these days a little bit, because if they didn't, they wouldn't have anything to do. They just keep writing about how bad Trump is.
On Friday, the White House announced that it was nominating Gail Manchin, Senator Joe Manchin's wife, for the job of federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. This is a group responsible for steering millions of dollars in states like West Virginia. That nomination came as a surprise to some people on the Hill, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the process of how the White House settled on Gail Manchin for that job, and what type of input Senator Manchin had in that.
I'll have to follow up with our personnel team on the exact process there, but we can do that for you after the briefing. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, so circle back Psaki strikes again, refuses to answer the question. Yeah, I mean, so let's go ahead and read some of this article. Why does Joe Manchin's wife get this job magically that she shouldn't have? It seems suspicious. Let's have a look at this. White House press secretary declined to answer questions Monday on President Joe Biden's decision to appoint Gail Manchin, wife of West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, to be the co-chair of a key federal commission on Friday. The appointment, buried in a list of 5 other administrative additions, puts Manchin atop the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is responsible for distributing millions in federal funds to West Virginia and the surrounding states. Bloomberg News' Nancy Cook noted on Monday's press briefing before Psaki to explain the process behind Manchin's selection. That nomination came as a surprise to some working on the Hill, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the process of how the White House settled on Gail Manchin for the job Cook posed to Psaki, and what kind of input Senator Manchin had in that. And then she says, I'm going to have to follow up. I'm going to circle back. She stopped saying circle back because I think she realized everybody's making fun of her for saying circle back with every question, and now she's saying, I'll have to get back to you. I'll have to follow up. I think is her term now. Manchin and Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema have repeatedly demonstrated they will not vote for Biden's legislation strictly on party lines, which is quite astonishing, actually, that a Democrat thinks for themselves. This is the weird thing. Like, if a Republican said that they weren't going to just follow the dogma of the party, most Republicans would probably respect that to some degree, right? In fact, a lot of Republicans don't agree with each other on things. You know, we have our sort of like nuances and little ideas about everything. And but Democrats don't work like that. You know, if you don't agree with Pelosi, you know, you're in trouble. Yeah, and the Gail Manchin appointment came just days before Biden is scheduled to unveil an ambitious spending package worth more than $3 trillion. The president has also signaled both publicly and privately that despite past misgivings, he is prepared to kill the Senate filibuster in order to pass potential gun control measures, which Manchin opposes. It should be noted that it is unprecedented for congressional lawmakers' spouses to serve in the executive branch. It isn't unprecedented. It has happened before. What he's saying. Elaine Chao, wife of Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, served as transportation secretary for the majority of former President Donald Trump's time in office. But that also is not good. I don't like that. I don't think she should have served in that position. I think that was corruption on behalf of Mitch McConnell. I don't like Mitch McConnell. I mean, he's a Republican, so oh shoot, I didn't even have the thing open. Anyway, I don't like Mitch McConnell. He's a Republican, so I like him for that reason. Whatever. But I mean, his wife's family owns a major company connected to the Communist Party of China. So I don't trust him at all to act in America's best interest. I think he's going to act in China's best interest a lot of the time, because it helps his family, And so, yeah, I don't think Mitch McConnell should be there. I think he should be out, along with all the Democrats who are also corrupt. But anyway, this is not the most exciting story. It's not the funniest or most charming story, but I did think it was an important story. I wanted to cover it. Do you have anything to say, darling? No? All right. Would you like to read the headline of the next story?
Yeah. Federal Reserve Bank is now dangerously partisan.
Partisan. Yeah. Okay. So I do apologize. There are two not very sexy stories in a row, but again, critical story. Very important story. GOP senator initiates review of San Francisco Fed's climate change and race-related research. So the Fed in San Francisco has been getting to social issues. They're very, very clearly mandated to be nonpartisan, and yet they're doing all this partisan social politics stuff now, which is very dangerous. Very dangerous. We should probably get rid of the Fed, really. But the Fed cannot be a partisan institution, and it's becoming this. Okay, Republican Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey initiated a review Monday of the Federal Reserve's alarming mission creep into environmental and social justice issues. Toomey, who's the ranking member on the Senate... Do I have this open? Yes, I do. Okay. The Senate Banking Committee wrote a letter to the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, their president, Mary Daly, expressing concern the bank was pivoting to politically charged research related to environmental, social, and governmental topics. The Federal Reserve's congressionally approved responsibilities do not include such topics, Toomey said. Federal Reserve banks including the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, have increasingly been engaged in such research on social policy topics, reflective of the political and normative leanings of unelected Federal Reserve Bank officials. Basically, he's saying the Federal Reserve Bank officials are all Democrats, and so they're engaging in research on issues that are politically left because they're Democrats, which they shouldn't be doing. Toomey wrote, this approach has inserted the Federal Reserve into the emotionally charged political arena, a place where the Federal Reserve seldom has ventured, and for good reason. Toomey requested several documents from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, including records of its planning for April climate seminars that it's hosting, according to the letter. He also requested memos and emails dating back to July 2019 that mentioned the Federal Reserve Bank's of San Francisco's focus on climate change and racial justice issues. I love that. I love that there are people out there that work for the federal government, that are representing us, the people, who are keeping an eye on this crap, because this is actually terrible. This is actually terrible. The Federal Reserve Bank should not be a partisan institution. It needs to be neutral. But this is becoming very difficult to do in the current political climate. All right. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has previously insisted that I'm going to stop reading the article because I want to say this, because this is really the reason why I started reading this article. I'm a little bit concerned that banks and interested parties that may be foreign or just powerful people generally are starting to have way too much control in America, because they chose Biden and Kamala Harris to run the country. Biden and Kamala Harris are not equipped to run the country. Neither of them have the capacity to run this country. Okay. They're both morons. I'm sorry. Joe Biden is a moron. Kamala Harris is a moron. All right. Even before Joe Biden lost his mind and he started becoming senile, he was already a moron. You know, Kamala Harris got into politics by sleeping with the mayor of San Francisco. That's how she got into politics. Look it up. It's ridiculous. She got
She
into
was like
politics.
20 years old and he was like 60.
Yeah. He was like 30 years older than her or something. She starts sleeping with this guy, and he gets her all these positions in government, these jobs she doesn't have to work, and she just makes a bunch of money, right? And then he starts to like promote her, you know, politically, and she moves on up. What's the guy's name?
Which one?
The guy that she was sleeping with to get,
I don't remember. But I know he was black.
yeah, something Brown.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
His last name was Brown?
I forget his first
I
name.
had the same
Yeah.
last name in mind.
I forget his first name. Anyway, but anyway, so she's sleeping with this guy, mayor of San Francisco. She gets into office that way, and Democrats are like, "Oh, she's the one we need as our vice president, the first female president, inevitably, because Joe Biden's going to end up failing soon." So the thing is, everybody thinks Joe Biden's going to leave soon, and I agree, he probably will have to.
You mean?
No, I don't think he's going to die, but that's not what people are saying. People aren't saying he's going to die. People are thinking he's just going to become so inept that he's going to have to step down. But he could die. That could actually happen. And he could be so inept that he can't even function. And in that case, he'd have to step down. But unless either one of those...
No. In this case,
Yeah.
they will say there is an extremely dangerous strain of COVID-19. We're all going to the basement. And
Yeah.
he's just still going to be a president, but
Yeah. Willie Brown.
Willie Brown.
Willie Brown. But look, unless he becomes completely incapacitated, or unless he's unable to actually, unless he dies, I don't think Kamala Harris is going to be put in office. And the reason is because it doesn't really matter how effective of a president he is. That doesn't matter. They want a guy that's malleable. And in fact, the less cognitive he is about what's going on, the better for the Democrats. Because these powerful people that are controlling Joe Biden right now, they need him not to interfere with what they're doing. They need him just to be compliant and to go along. And that's why they like somebody who's compromised like him, right? His son's makes him totally compromised. What he did in Ukraine makes him compromised. What he did in China makes him compromised. I'm sure they got him on a number of things. They're able to manipulate him. But also, he just can't even function. He can't even put up a fight. So he's perfect. Kamala Harris could potentially like try to interfere, like, nobody tells me what to do. I'm the president. You know, you can imagine that happening. I don't think they want her in there because they don't want some sassy, somebody who thinks that they have, they don't want to get her too big of a head where they think that she's actually running the country. So it's better for them to keep Biden in as long as they possibly can. But here's the thing. Who did he appoint as the Secretary of the Treasury? Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen used to be the head of the Federal Reserve Bank. So Janet Yellen is like, she is connected to the Clintons because she used to work with the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton's administration. And she's also connected to all these major banks and all these bigwigs. They all have influence through her into the Biden administration. You shouldn't be bringing in Federal Reserve chair people into your administration as the treasurer. They did this once before, I think, during the Jimmy Carter's administration. I looked it up. There was one other Federal Reserve chair that became a treasurer, and it was under Jimmy Carter. But you shouldn't have that. Shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be mixing up. It's always Democrats. Democrats don't care about neutrality. They don't care about the rules. They don't even care about they care about the appearance of neutrality, but they don't actually care about actual neutrality or doing the right thing. They just care about getting what they want done at all costs. Anyway, so again, not a particularly sexy story, not a particularly exciting story, but something I thought you guys should hear about. Now we're going to get into the last story of the day, which I think is actually quite a lot of fun. Valeria, would you like to read the headline?
Yeah, Sesame Street to educate children on racial literacy. That's your favorite subject, Chris?
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
Is that how they say it in Russia?
We say Sesame Street.
Oh, Sesame Street. Right. Well, it's Sesame Street here.
Sesame.
Sesame. Yeah.
Did I say Sesame?
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
I don't know. Yeah, Sesame Street. Yeah, so Sesame Street apparently wants to add.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? The goatee is like ridiculous. I mean, just come on, guys. Anyway, Sesame Street adds 2 new Muppets to educate children on racial literacy. I'm not really going to read this story because what I basically wanted to do is show you guys the early cast of Sesame Street. This is the cast that I grew up with. Hold on, let me switch it to this one. This is the cast I grew up with looking at on
So
Sesame
white.
Street. Well, exactly. That's the thing. There's like one white guy over here. There are various iterations of this. I mean, so we have like what looks like maybe like a black girl or maybe half black, half Latina here. We got like a Mexican guy here. We got 3 black folks. And the Muppets don't have color. I mean, they have color, you know, like blue.
I mean, that one looks like Armenian.
This one looks Armenian. Bert looks Armenian. Valeria, you should know, likes Armenian people, so that's not an insult. But yeah, he kind of does look kind of Armenian. Now let's look at another iteration of the cast. This one's a little bit harder to see, but you see more of the cast here. Looks like there's, I don't know if she's like a light-skinned Hispanic or she's just white, but this looks like there might be another white person here. You know, you got an Asian little girl. Looks like a Mexican kid. Obviously a lot of black people, a lot of Hispanic people. There's another black woman up here. You know, white people were always, you know, like a minority on Sesame Street from the beginning. Okay, so now this is, I think, an even earlier iteration. I think this is the woman who started Sesame Street. Here's Jim Henson down here. You know, you got these kids, mixed race kids. This girl looks like she might be white. This is another character that looks white. And then this guy he died actually fairly early on in the series. But I think he ran like the newspaper stand. I was like very, very young when he died. But I do remember him. I do remember him from Sesame Street. I mean, I was like a very, very little kid watching Sesame Street. And I remember all these people. I remember all these like black folks and Hispanic folks. And, you know, they don't have everybody here. They don't have Louise here. Maybe he came in a little bit later, but yeah, Sesame Street has always been, you know, mostly not white. I mean, mostly a not white cast. But now they're bringing in black Muppets to try to show that black people are good or something. Like, I don't see. Here's the problem that I have with all this diversity crap. It's like if you take a group like Sesame Street that has always been dedicated to being anti-racist, you know, into equality and showing you that different races are good, teaching you a little bit of Spanish, teaching you a little bit about, you know, that black people and white people are basically the same kinds of folks, which is, I think, are all great messages. And then they think, oh, we have to be even more not racist or more anti-racist or whatever. Like, where do you go from there? If you keep pushing, you know where you go? You go into racism again, okay? So, like, racism and anti-racism is like a hill. Right? You got your racism here, you got your anti-racism up here, and then you have more racism down here. And if you go up the hill and you're at the pinnacle, not racist, and you go, we got to go further than that. Where do you go? You go back down into racism. But now you're not maybe racism against that group, you're racist against that group, right? So they're no longer racist against black or Latino people or anything, or Asians or whatever, Muslims. Now they're racist against white people. We're the ethnic minority apparently now in America. We're the hated group, which is not acceptable.
Ethnic majority, I would say.
Well, yeah, technically we're the majority, but we're treated as if we're the minority. You know, we're treated as if we're this like the, what do they call it, the redheaded stepchild of America. Anyway, but yeah, so I think that you know that Sesame Street is going into dangerous territory here, and here's really the concerning part about that is that I feel like if you have children now, you can't let them watch Sesame Street. It's like it used to be that like there were certain shows that you could just put them in front of the TV, let them watch the show, and there was not going to be anything negative or nasty, or they're going to teach them anything bad, right? Like Mr. Rogers. You knew you stuck a kid in front of the TV, they watched Mr. Rogers, they were going to be fine. You let them watch Sesame Street, they weren't going to get any bad messages. When I was a kid, I actually didn't like Sesame Street because it was it was the 80s. And Sesame Street was kind of 70s looking. It looked like a little dirty. Mm-hmm. Like everything was like a little grungy and a little like Oscar the Grouch and all that. Like it looked a little bit, it wasn't my style as a kid. Like I liked the cool new stuff.
I didn't watch Sesame Street when I was a child. I knew about that,
Yeah.
Didn't really watch.
Yeah, in Russia, they have their own version, I think. It's not the same version as we have in America. Yeah.
But called the same.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's called the same everywhere, kind of. Except for yours is like Sesame Street. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you have a genie on your show. Sesame gives you 3 wishes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that they're going to be venturing from equality into like equity and like talking about how amazing black people are and stuff like that, and because that seems like where everybody's being pushed to go. I mean, I hope Sesame Street doesn't go there, but because they've done this push of adding these new Muppets, these new like I don't know if they're like black or half black or Latino.
Where's mom? Is it like single dad? I thought it should be like single mom.
It's so true to life, isn't it? They've got a single black dad.
I'm not gonna comment on that.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I actually hate doing this. I hate being on the side where I have to point out reality, because reality is kind of ugly. Nobody really likes reality. Nobody really likes to accept certain things about history, right? Like, everybody wants to say white people are bad and that's why black people are poor, disproportionately poor. But nobody wants to point out that white people did a lot of good things historically. And nobody likes to point out that for thousands of years, black people basically in Africa lived a Paleolithic lifestyle. They lived like the Paleolithic Europeans thousands of years before, like 10,000 years before. That's how Europeans lived. And so when Europeans met up with Africans, they were way behind. And actually, I've been doing a lot of research on Germans because I'm German. And so I got kind of caught up doing some research on ancient Germany, like during the Roman era. And Germans were essentially barbarians during the Roman era. Obviously, they were a little bit more technologically similar to the Romans than Black Africans were when Europeans first met them. But they were still considered to be much more primitive than the Romans at the time. And so they had a disadvantage. They had quite a lot of years of disadvantage. So this is like in about the year of Christ, right? Like the year 1, right? Like way back then. That's when these things were being written about these Germanic tribes. And so, they were a lot closer. They were a lot more technologically advanced. They were farmers and stuff like that. They lived an agrarian lifestyle, but they were tribal. And they were certainly much more primitive technologically than the Romans, and they wouldn't let the Romans in. Like, the Romans conquered like everywhere, but the Germans fought back, and they wouldn't. The Romans were kind of scared of them, and they wouldn't go into Germany. So there was this area called I think it was called Germania or Germania, I think, and they wouldn't go into to Germany. They wouldn't go in there. They were scared of the Germans, and it was like one of the few places that the Romans were like refused to take over. But the problem was that because the Germans were so independent-minded and wouldn't let the Romans in, I think they probably suffered a little bit in terms of their inability to progress technologically, right? They fought sort of like the Scots, right? They just cared about their freedom, so they wouldn't progress with the rest of the Roman world, which is fine. You know, you can make that decision, and they did, and that's probably the right decision for them, because look at them now, Germany, so great. But I have that in my ancestry too. I have people who were farther behind than the rest of civilization, right? They were lagging behind the rest of civilization. But the problem with Black Africans, Sub-Saharan Africans, is that they were like 10,000 years behind. I mean, it was a long time behind. It wasn't like, you know, a couple of centuries behind. It was like millennia behind. And so when you take people who aren't accustomed to the civilization, and put them in this much more advanced civilization, it might take them several generations to catch up. It's not merely that they're being oppressed because of the racism. Certainly the oppressive racism had some kind of consequence to that. But see, the point I'm trying to make here is that history is nuanced. Reality is nuanced. There are bad white people, but there are good white people. There are good black people, but there are also bad black people. So you need to look at things in a nuanced way, but the left doesn't want us to look at things like that. They want us to look at everything like, white people bad, black people good, and then it forces somebody like me to talk about all this crap because nobody else is willing to talk about it. And then, I'm kind of fortunate in a way. I almost never have anybody accusing me of being racist or anything like that. I don't really remember anybody ever calling me that. I get a few comments here and there, but it seems like they're just doing it because that's the thing to do. You're right. I don't think they really actually believe that. But it's frustrating because I don't want to say things that sound ugly. I don't want to have to be the one that's expressing these ideas because I like black people. I do. I hate to say that actually because I don't want to specifically like black people. I just want to like decent people. But the point I'm trying to make is that I like decent people who happen to be black. I like decent people who happen to be Asian. I like decent people who happen to be Mexican, Hispanic, whatever. I don't really care what your race is. I care about if you're a decent person. And so it would be nice just to say nice things about black people. It would be nice just to say nice things about Asians, about Hispanics, and never say anything bad about any other group. But we live in a society now where these obvious realities have to be stated confidently and affirmatively because there are so many people that are pretending that the reality is something that it's not. And it's not fun for me. I don't like doing that. I really don't like doing that. I mean, it's fun for me to conceive of the ideas because I like thinking through things and experimenting with different, ideas and thoughts and philosophies and stuff like that. But I really don't like talking. I mean, it's ugly stuff to talk about. It's not fun. I would rather just not talk about the racial stuff. Why couldn't we get past this like we did like in the 90s, like in the 80s and the 90s? Why can't we be past it again? We have to go back to this equity crap because the left wants to be racist. Anyway, you say something.
Well, I just got this information from my secret source.
Oh, what information?
Kevin Clash, who is American puppeteer for Elmo character.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he quit
Oh, he quit?
because of the sex scandal.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. It was in 2012.
I shouldn't laugh. That's messed
up. It was
up.
in 2012.
Yeah.
A lawsuit filed in federal court in New York charged Clash with sexual abuse of a second youth.
Who?
Second youth.
No. Who are you talking about?
Kevin Clash.
Oh, so he's like a pedophile.
Yep.
Oh man, that is messed up.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, the behind the scenes of these children's shows isn't always as lovely as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was mentioning at the top of the show how I worked for the production company that produced Reading Rainbow.
There's always such messed up things about this children's show, like Disney, Nickelodeon. I always hated work for those productions who worked through, because they're always so horrible.
Yeah, the crews are so terrible.
Every time when I work for productions who is like Disney, Nickelodeon, it's like
they're very strict. They've got a lot of regulations, and they're not very respectful of people. They tend to be the least. When I've worked at Disney,
when I worked
it depends. Like it depends on the project.
When I worked on Nickelodeon, first of all, they paying lower.
They pay lower. Yeah.
They pay lower.
Yeah.
Secondly, that person, whoever was it, AD, he was saying, you are not allowed to say word God or Disney. Every freaking day he was saying that. You're not allowed to say God or Disney.
He said you're not allowed to say the word God, and you're
Or
not allowed to
Disney.
say the word Disney.
Yeah, it was Nickelodeon. I don't know. Do you understand
That's like a
why?
PA or?
Yeah, it's like AD, second AD, PA, I don't know.
That's weird. That's so weird.
Unpleasant people
Very
work there.
weird.
They work with children.
Yeah.
They're so unpleasant.
Yeah, a lot of the people that work on children's shows that I've met, some of them are great. I mean, some of the people I've worked with are people that I love. They were amazing people. But yeah, like the executives that I worked for in New York that did the show Reading Rainbow, pure evil. I mean, these people had like hearts of coal, and they were cruel human beings. And nobody would stand up to them in the place because they knew they'd get fired. So I stood up to them, and I got fired. It's the best firing I ever had. I didn't care. I was just like, screw you, women. I'll get some job somewhere else.
Shall we read the super chats that
Yes.
we had?
We are done with the news. Time
now I
for
have
your
a new
comments and
tactic.
questions. Whatever you want.
Now I have a new tactic. Every time I see super chat, I'm taking picture of it
Perfect.
so I won't miss it.
Wasn't that our plan in the beginning, though?
I think so.
Yeah. What happened? Why didn't you do that? All right. Would you like to read the super chat, Jonah?
Yeah, Disney is a competition. Yeah, I understand. That's why they were like, you're not allowed to say Disney here. Still.
Yeah, still, it's
Messed
weird.
up.
It's weird.
Okay, first super chat from Daniel Patriot. Daniel was.
Yes.
The recent attacks on patriots flying flags behind their trucks is scary. I fly and don't treat me. I fly and don't treat on me and Blue Lives Matter flags daily behind my Ram 1500.
Nice.
I won't stop doing this. I love America.
Nice.
Us.
Nice. What was the first part of
US,
that? What is the
America,
first
US.
part of that he said?
The recent attacks on patriots flying flags behind their trucks is scary.
Yeah, actually, Valeria wanted to get... What was the bumper sticker you wanted to get?
I wanted to get just an American flag bumper.
Yeah, she goes, I don't care anymore. I'm getting an American flag bumper sticker and I'm putting it on my car. And I said, don't you dare. And everybody out there is being like, you traitor. No, I'm not a traitor. And I'll tell you why. Because we live in downtown LA. And if we put that on our bumper sticker, the back of our freaking car is going to get smashed in. Not even a question.
I saw
Not even a
people with
question.
Trump sticker on in downtown LA.
Driving around or parked?
Driving around, parked inside.
Yeah. See, that's the issue. Like, certainly, yes, we have a parking garage, so our car's a little bit more safe. But if you ever have to park downtown outside...
There is no parking in downtown.
But you know what I mean. If you
Yeah.
park in an area in which there are people who don't like Trump, you just get your back window smashed in. And here's the thing. Like, okay, if I didn't have any other way of expressing my support for Donald Trump or any other way of expressing, my patriotism, yeah, okay, maybe we would get bumper stickers or something like that. But, like, my whole show is, like, pro-America, patriotic, pro-Trump. Like, I love America. I'm trying to make America better desperately, despite the fact that it's so hard. You don't need to sacrifice your car. It's fine.
I'm paying so much money for the insurance. I want to use my insurance.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But you don't want to get it's a hassle. So, but okay, look. If you want to get an American bumper sticker,
Put it inside.
you we're gonna move soon, okay? So let's just wait until we move. I don't know where
if
we're
I would
going.
move to if I would move to Texas, I would say I would get a sticker. Don't California my Texas.
California after we move from California to Texas. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we?
Yeah. Second super chat also from Patriot Daniel. Chris, can we block him so he will stop
So we can
sending
stop
us
saying
money?
it's money? No, we love Daniel. Daniel's cool, man.
Okay.
Love that guy.
On topic, I'm wastewater treatment plant operator. I'm immune to everything. Y'all can have my vaccine.
I think you told us that once before. That's hilarious. I love that. That's too funny, man.
Okay. John McMasters said, I'm an oil field truck driver. I'm the embodiment of toxic masculinity.
Is it what truck driver?
Oil field truck driver.
Oh yeah. You don't get more toxically masculine than that. Oh, I love it, man. I
think I already have imagination how he looks like in my mind.
You know what's weird? It's like, so I was in New York, and we're in the kind of nice hotel room looking at all the businesses, and when we were in New York.
Yeah, we get a great view. Like I was surprised.
Oh, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
I mean, furniture was crap.
Yeah, furniture wasn't great, but the view was beautiful, and I could see all these business offices, and I thought, what's kind of sad actually is, like, I love my job. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Well, maybe one thing, but I wouldn't. There's a couple of things maybe, but I love this job. But here's the thing, and I love the freedom of it. But, like, there's something about working with other people in an office that is really nice, because you kind of feel like part of the world. You kind of feel part of what's going on, like the engine that is this market economy here in the United States. You're part of that. You're actually, one of the things that keeps America going forward and moving forward, and it's especially true when you do a job with your hands, or you do a job where you actually have to do something physical, like working an oil rig, like driving a truck, like, and I've done some kind of stuff like that. But but not I mean, I haven't had like a career or anything like a long-term job doing anything like really manly. And it's messed up, you know, like when you do just even the smallest thing, like repair something in your house or help your brother remodel something in his house, or you know what I mean, like do a little demolition or anything that you can do where you have to do something with your hands, you know, drive a nail into a wall with a hammer, screw something in. We had to repair the bed the other day. Don't ask me why. It's because I'm fat is the why reason. But yeah, anything that you got to do with your hands as a man, if you don't do a manly job, it's so great. I mean, you have no idea how nice it is. If you have a job like I have and you have to do something masculine, oh my God, it makes you feel like your ancestors or something, like you're hunting something, you know, which I should get into hunting, actually. I should get into hunting. Because the only reason, yeah, maybe I will. Well, I'll think about that. That's a new thing. Okay, I just had an epiphany on the show. Because I gotta have a reason to get out into the outdoors, because she won't go camping with me, and I don't really have an excuse to do any of that stuff. But if I start hunting, maybe that, because I don't really like fishing that much. Although my buddy Kurt, he likes fishing. But
I like fishing.
Oh, you like fishing?
I always. Have you seen my pictures from childhood that I
No.
showed you yesterday? I was fishing.
Oh, either you in one of them. You were, yeah. I thought that was like a novelty. No, that was like normal. Okay, all right. Well, let's go fishing. Yeah, I used to fish all the time when I was a kid.
But they weren't fishing like that you throw.
Yeah.
I would just like you want, like there's two types of
Oh, yeah,
fishing.
you weren't
throw
fly
and you,
fishing. Yeah. I've never been fly
No,
fishing,
I
which
didn't.
I would like to go fly fishing. It's a little bit more active.
I don't like that kind of like.
We could, well, have you tried it?
No.
I haven't tried it either. We
complicated.
should maybe try fly fishing. But yeah, I just went normal fishing my whole life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oregon, there's some good fishing in Oregon. All right. Next comment question.
Yeah. From MZBTTY Boop. Complicated
Okay.
nickname. I never understood the concept of men paying women to tease them and walk away.
Oh, the strip club thing.
You just pay extra and.
Valeria.
What? That isn't the truth.
Why are you not centered in frame? What happened? There we go. It's better. Yeah, I mean, I think some places probably, yes, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Probably not a topic I want to delve into too much. But when I was young, I always thought that like getting a girl to like you, you know, attracting a girl when you're young and you're broke, if you can get a girl to want to date you or whatever when you're young, it's sort of like a you know, like a challenge. It's like something you want to accomplish. Like you're going hunting and you want to achieve success in the hunt. And I was pretty good at it. And actually one time, and I always kind of like resented guys who kind of cheated, right? There were guys that cheated, I thought. And they would cheat by like okay, one way of cheating is obviously just being rich and being able to get girls because you're rich. That's obviously one way. So I always resented guys that were like ugly old men with like hot young girls, and now I'm one of them. But then also like I knew guys that were like photographers, and they like specifically went into photography so that they could shoot models. Like that was their whole game. It was
Probably
like
naked most of the time. Lingerie.
They would try to get them to do it. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they didn't. But it was just so creepy. I always thought it was so creepy. And like, to me, like the whole idea, and now I think it's pretty with the apps and with the sort of hookup culture, which wasn't quite as bad when I was growing up. It's just so easy. And I actually remember when I was traveling through Europe, and I went to a bar in Paris. And I ended up spending the evening with a very beautiful Polish girl, and I get back to the youth hostel where I was staying at, and there was these two guys I was hanging out with, and these guys were a little seedier than I was used to in terms of friends, and I asked them what happened to their girls because they had each picked a girl in the bar to kind of hang out with. And they were just like, oh man, like they weren't interested. We had to come back to the place alone, and they were like, well, what the hell happened to you? Why'd you go after that hot girl? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like the most beautiful girl in the bar. And they go, yeah, but man, you don't go after the most beautiful girl in the bar. She's not gonna sleep with you. And I'm like, well, maybe I wasn't trying to sleep with her. And they're like, well, what the hell are you doing? It's just like, why are you there if you're not trying to sleep with these girls? And if you're trying to sleep with the girls, why would you go after the most beautiful one? Like it's just a very different mentality. Like they had the mentality of just the whole thing of like it was all just an attempt to hook up with a girl. Like to me, that was not the intent. The intent was to get the girl to actually want to be with you. That to me was the goal, and that's a much higher standard to try to get to. And so to me, the game of dating and being with women and everything was a far harder than I guess than I necessarily had to make it for myself. But that's the goal that I was aiming toward. And so I always kind of resented guys that would just be trying to hook up and then they'd use tricks. I always thought it was kind of cheating. And so to me, the concept of
what kind of tricks? Like I have 5 Bitcoins or what? Back then it was like how much? 1,000.
Yeah, well, just like just the photography thing. I knew another guy. He wanted to be an airline pilot because he thought that girls liked airline pilots.
Yes.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know. I don't understand that phenomenon, but I guess it's a thing, and different stuff like that. But it wasn't necessarily just jobs. It was also other kind of things, and yeah. I mean, I could go into a whole list of stuff, but the point is that there were guys that would just use tricks to get girls, and I always thought this was kind of cheating. And so the concept of actually paying a girl to sleep with you, that I just even couldn't. That was like out of the realm of my conscious. I just had no concept of why anyone would do that. But then I realized that there were guys like Harvey Weinstein who were just like, they weren't going to be able to attract a girl. So I actually, when I started thinking about the kind of messed up stuff that guys do to get girls, I realized the reason is because there are guys who are desperate to be with beautiful women, but there's no way they're going to be able to attract a beautiful woman. So that's their only option. And once I realized that, I actually became more sympathetic to these kind of guys. But I still don't understand strip clubs. I mean, I guess I kind of do, but it's just not, I don't know.
There's another super chat from Daniel about strip club.
Yeah.
Strip club are like all-you-can-eat buffets where you can't eat the food, but you have to pay
a la carte for it. Yeah. Yeah, it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet, but you can only smell the food. And you have to pay every time you smell it.
Then come being full.
Then what?
Then come being full, like not be hungry.
The way you phrase that sounds terrible. So let's rephrase it. You should go to the strip club already full.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Moving on. Do we have another question? Comment? Let's just distract from this awkward moment, please.
Yes, we do.
You should do what? Being full?
Well, usually if you go like to expensive restaurant.
No. I just wanted you to repeat the words that you said. It's fine. Never mind. For comedic effect.
Yes. Frank James.
Yep.
People are minority on Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street, sorry. Muppet power.
People are minorities on Sesame Street. Muppet power. Yeah, people are the minorities on Sesame Street. It's mostly Muppets. And actually, human beings are actually the oppressed minority on that show.
Another comment from Frank James. Am I looking at Bird One Blackface? Is it about Sesame Street?
Oh, Bert in blackface, he meant. Bert in blackface.
Okay.
He's talking about the Sesame Street. That is pretty funny, actually. Let me switch to the view that you guys can actually see this. Yeah, he's saying, is that Bert in blackface? Remember the guy you said looks Armenian?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's saying that it's that Muppet, but in blackface. That's the joke.
Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't have the unibrow.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So it must be like... must be Bert's mixed-raced cousin.
But he has like a purple nose. I don't understand.
The
But
purple
okay.
nose. I don't know. The whole thing just seems to me to be ridiculous. Anyway,
Okay.
moving on. Next question.
Charlie's Gibbons giving me $5. This should cover the American flag sticker.
I guess we're getting an American flag sticker. Fine.
Okay. Yankee the Rabel. Come to me and I've got 7 deers in my backfield at this very moment. Hunt away.
Oh, sorry. I didn't quite catch that. Say it again.
Yankee Rabel, our girl.
Oh, Yankee the Rebel. Yes,
Yankee
yes.
the
Come to Maine. I've got 7 deer in my backfield at this very moment. Hunt away. You know, I don't know if I would hunt deer. I would probably hunt elk. And the reason I would hunt elk, I think, is because I really like deer. And I don't think I'd want to kill one. When I was like a little kid, my grandparents lived in a forest. They actually had a big forest, like hundreds of acres of forest. And we would sit out in the back window and we would look at the deer. And sometimes we'd be outside and they'd kind of come up. And my grandparents actually didn't really like them coming in because they would mess up their garden. They would eat all the food in their garden. So they had these huge, high netting guarding the garden from these deer. But they did like looking at them out back, and they even had like little wooden deer figurines like placed around the house, and I think pictures of deer, and I think maybe I don't know. Deer is kind of like a I don't know. Maybe I'd hunt a deer. I don't know. Yeah, why not?
Maybe
Gets
that's
me.
why. Maybe that's why that Muppet has a purple nose. Wildcat Diva says alcoholic with a purple nose.
Alcoholic with a purple. They've made an alcoholic Muppet,
And it's black.
and it's black. I think that's racist.
That is.
I think that might be racist. Sesame Street.
We have been 2 hours.
Have we really?
2
Are we done with?
hours.
Are we done with the super chats? Do you want to?
We are
call
done
it a
with super
night?
chats. We are done. Can we cut it until somebody will say another super chat?
Well, Taco Magnet wants me to get into the third-party super chat thing. I'll tell you what. I wasted my weekend. I had so much work to do, including getting into the third-party super chat thing. Thanks for reminding me about
That's
that.
true.
I had so much stuff to do this weekend. I didn't do any of it because I actually got into another project, and so I neglected all the other projects that I had. I was supposed to sign a contract this weekend, didn't do that. The guy's like, "What? Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm working on it." And I got to read through that, sign that. I've got
That's
so
not
much
a
stuff
super
to do.
chat.
Sorry, I delayed too long. Okay, read it. Let's do this. John
John
McMasters.
I look like you from Impractical Jokes.
Impractical Jokers. Q from Impractical Jokers. I don't know who that is. Let's do images. Oh, he's a good-looking guy. He's all right. You look like Q from Impractical Jokers? He kind of looks like me a little bit. We got kind of the same eyebrows. He's a little bit more heavy set.
There's one eyebrow
Look at that.
image. There's one eyebrow image. You missed
He's a little
it.
fatter than me, but
Missed it. There's he in a gray.
I don't know what you're saying, Dowie.
Second row.
This one?
No, one more.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, the gray hat.
Yeah.
Could have used the word hat. That would
Hat.
help. That would help me to understand what
Hat,
you're trying to
okay.
say.
I thought it's like
yeah.
a baseball cap. No, it's not a baseball
Yeah.
cap.
I do that a lot, actually. Yeah, we kind of have a similar look. He's kind of like a slightly fatter version of me, but yeah, we got kind of a similar look there. So, but this guy said that John McMaster said that he looks like Q from Impractical Jokers. I don't really know why you wrote that. But now we know what John McMasters looks like. Oh, was he talking about earlier about something about women or something like that? I don't know. Mr. Reagan, is it going to have new videos? Oh yeah, I'm always working on new videos. I'm actually working on a lot of new videos, which is why I'm not getting any of them done. That's the biggest problem. Frank James, yeah, he's fat. All right, well, let's call it a night, and we will see you guys tomorrow. This was a really long one. I didn't mean for it to be this long. I actually wanted this to be kind of short today, but we had a lot of stories to cover, and yeah, a lot of interesting news. Thanks for sticking with us if you stuck with us the whole way through, and we will see you guys tomorrow. You want to say goodbye?
Yeah. Good night, and don't call it immediately because there's not a super chat.
I'll figure it out.
Chris,
Oh,
there's
is
not a
there?
super chat.
All right.
It's just Charlie Gibbons. Thank you too. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Charles. All right, bye, guys.
Good night.
Toxic masculinity.
Is it gonna cut again? We'll see.